What's up, guys, and welcome back to our OOTP19 save with the Arizona Diamondbacks. As you can see, things have gone quite a bit better for us as of late. We are 47 and 39 on July the 2nd, and things are overall going well other than the fact that Zach Greinke is injured, and he will be out for 4 months with a torn labrum in his shoulder. Overall, you can take a quick look at our stats here in this left corner. Everything is pretty good. Our offense especially is spectacular, second and first in almost every category except for home runs, where we're fifth. Defense has been a little bit shakier, but we are fourth and fifth in the National League. So a lot of positives to be taken away there. Yohan Lopez also has 20 saves, and John Duplantier has come up. Really done what I consider to be a very good job. The walks are still a concern for me, but as long as he keeps pitching like this, can't really say anything. And for a guy that was supposed to be our top prospect, can't ask for too much more than that. So it is July the 2nd. What we're going to be doing in this episode, we're going to go and take a look at the international amateur free agents. I have not taken a look at them yet, so I have no idea what kind of quality or anything that we're going to get. And then we're going to play all the way to the trading deadline. And if we are still in the hunt at that point, maybe we'll make some sort of buying moves and try and push ourselves really into a playoff race. Or if we've fallen off at that point, which I have a feeling that we will, since we're very tight in this wild card race, there is not a lot of room between all these teams, then we may consider selling off a couple of pieces that are going to be leaving at the end of the summer anyway. So that's what we're going to be doing. First things first, though, let's go see what these international amateurs are. And first impressions, make sure that I have the right scouting on. That helps. They all look pretty good. I'm seeing a lot of blue, which means that we see some double plus and above tools. So first guy that catches my eye is Juan Zavala. High work ethic. That's always nice. And actually looks fairly developed for a guy this young. If we take a look at him compared to where we would put him in the Dominican Summer League, he'd be really above average in almost every respect for that level. And for a 16-year-old, that's pretty impressive. So right away, I want to sign this guy. Juan Armenta, that's better. There we go. Low work ethic, low intelligence. Not somebody I'm really going to be looking into, and also somebody that wants all $5 million of our bonus pool. We are limited to $5 million every year. Those are the rules I think that came in 2017-18? So not looking to spend it all on one player. If we can, although Zavala seems like somebody who would be worth spending everything on if you had to. No pitchers really of interest. The best one looks to be Juan Ars. And he's fine, but I mean, he's not that amazing. There is this guy, Rodolfo Zarate, who's very interesting, if only for his speed. But I think Lupe Romero, also kind of interesting, just judging by what everyone's demands are. We may be able to get this guy, Alfredo Sarmiento, who has high intelligence. The gap power is a little bit worrying, but plus contact, plus avoid Ks, good home run power, a chance to maybe play center field depending on how those defensive ratings evolve over time. Let's see what OSA looks about him. They don't like him as much, but it may be that we can get him and also Juan Zavala. So that might be worth doing. Is there anybody else? Let's sort by demands. This is always something good to do, is just look at who has the lowest demands that is still pretty good. So Sarmiento is somebody that stood out. Jorge Ortega is okay. And also looks like Luis Ramirez is meh. So nobody really standing out. But yeah, Sarmiento and Zavala are possible. So let's go ahead and just get into negotiations with Zavala. I think a good starting place for him might be just a little under half. So he was asking for $2,400,000. Let's go for $1 million. and then we'll negotiate from there. Hopefully we can get kind of in a midpoint of around, let's say like 1,400,000, 1,580,000. That'll do. Okay. And obviously that's going to go up over the course of negotiations. And our first priority is to get him done and booked. Let's go ahead and go in on Sarmiento. Start him at 700K. Go up to a little under 800. He seems to be very patient, so let's just go to 800. You can see their current negotiation mood here with this little like smiley face, which actually is a pretty good judge of, how far you can push things. So generally when a guy is being fairly patient, I will step things up incredibly slowly. Like I've submitted a couple of offers that were right at like 800,000. Now I'm going to step it up a little more significantly because he's starting to get a little bit upset with me. Now he's very upset with me. And so I'm going to put one in at just under 1,000,000 or maybe right at 1,000,000. And that happens sometimes. So he doesn't want to discuss it and we missed out. So that's the risk you take. But I think it's a worthwhile one in most situations. Let's go for a secondary target, perhaps. How does Nesty Estrada look? Okay, he looks fine. We could go a little bit higher up and try for Rodolfo Zarate. So he wants 3.4. Let's start him at 1.3. 1.4. He backed off that demand pretty big time. 1.58. I think we can get him for just over 2.1. I'm going to go 1.9. He wants just under 2.1. There we go. All right, so I'll let you guys know how those end up. I'm going to leave myself a little bit of room, obviously, just because I expect those bonuses to go high up, and I'll keep you updated. But we are now going to start simulating towards the trade deadline as that goes on, and I will give you updates as and when needed. So Zavala is back. He's not asking for too much, so we'll just go ahead and accept that and see how it continues. Oh, this is both good and bad. Oh, so this happens sometimes. So Zarate, I don't know how to say that, but he signed instantly. And what that means is that we can't back out on him to go higher on our real target, which is a bit of a shame, because if you could only have one of them, you would want the other guy. But he doesn't look bad, so we'll see how it goes. I'm cautiously optimistic that we can get him for under the cap, but I'm also not sure. We'll see. Right, so here's Zavala. I'm expecting bad things. Oh man, that's annoying. Well, that happens. So the Astros just have bumped us out, and I can't compete with that. What I am going to do is shortlist him because, sometimes you can get guys like this, even though they have super high potential, because they're so far away from it, you can get them in like a, sneaky throw in a trade. So I'll try and do that, but yeah, I'm not 100% convinced that worked out in our favor. In fact, I'm pretty convinced of the opposite. So I'm a little disappointed, but we're going to go to the trade deadline. We are slipping a little bit in the race for the wild card, and we're falling away in the division. So we're looking more and more out of it with every passing day, which I don't think I need to tell anyone is pretty bad. But we're going to go to the trade deadline now, and we'll just see where we are then. Okay, so Zavala signed with Baltimore, which sucks because it probably means that we're not going to be able to make any sort of trade at the deadline that would have him as a throw-in, since they are well out of any possible race. But I think it's important to take lessons from stuff like this, which is just that, if you want your guy, go get him. I think that I got a little bit too greedy, and so that is something to pay attention to if you're playing this game. Is if you see a guy like this, which I mean, I just can't believe I missed out on him, then go get him. Don't worry about trying to min max things. Just go for the high value guy. So that's disappointing. He's still on my short list, so if something comes up with him, there's always a chance to get him back. But it is still disappointing nonetheless. And the fact that he went to the Orioles, like I said, probably means it's a little bit unlikely. Things are super tight still in the wild card race, by the way, and we have about half a month or maybe 3/4 of a month to go. So see you at the trade deadline. All right, so July 26th, and it looks like we're going to make a legit push at this thing. We're 1.5 games ahead of Atlanta for the second wild card spot, and then another 3 games ahead of Colorado. So overall, 4.5 games into a wild card spot, and only 5.5 games back of the Los Angeles Dodgers, who are leading the division. I would like to attribute a lot of that to my management, but really I just think that we've gotten some solid performances in places, and our rotation has worked really well to keep guys fresh. Guys like Socrates Brito coming in and doing a job for us, things like that. And also John Duplantier. I think we called him up at the right time. He had just enough development time in AAA to work on the command enough that it was enough to succeed at the major league level. And then he's come in and done a pretty good job for us as it happened. But that does mean that my trades are of a buying nature, so we are deadline buyers. I'm going to do it in an interesting way, though, because I don't necessarily think we're ready to be contenders. What I'm going to try and do is supplant the roster with young guys who I think can maybe make an impact now, but make a bigger impact in future years. So just to give you an example of that type of trade, this is one that I already have set up, and it's going to be for the guy that you just saw flash up on the screen, DeMarcus Evans. So he is a pitcher currently in high A ball, but let me explain myself. He has ridiculous stuff, and if you look at his ratings, and if you compare him with Yohan Lopez, who is currently our closer, they look incredibly similar. I mean, they look like they're basically the same player, other than the fact that Yohan Lopez is slightly better versus righties and DeMarcus Evans is slightly better versus lefties. So I really do think that he could be an impact player for us by the end of the season, and I think he would just take a little bit of time in like a AA, AAA, just like 5 innings each or something, and then he would be up to help us. And we're not giving up really anything that I care about for him. Emilio Vargas, depth in AAA, Rob Refsnyder, a 28-year-old who I don't need, and then Ryan Atkinson, a 26-year-old who I don't need. So not giving up a ton, but trying to supplant the roster now, and then also a little bit into the future as our bullpen is going to age. We have a couple of guys who are at 30 or over 34 by like Yoshihisa Hirano, so I'm trying to build in that way. So we're going to go ahead and complete this one right now. I'm going to keep an eye out for other trades that could be made like that. It may involve leveraging some of our kind of depth pieces into younger ones. We'll see about that. But I'm not going to move anybody that's too big of a name if I can help it, unless they're leaving at the end of the year. That's all I can say about that. So I'll take a look at a couple of more trades. If we take a look at the schedule, I have about 6 days to do it in, so a little bit of time. We'll see what I come up with. Hopefully we make maybe 1, could be 2 trades to strengthen this team for a stretch run, and we'll see what they are. Okay, second trade. So this one not super impactful. But I noticed that I could get Fernando Romero for basically nothing. The dude throws 96. He's got developing secondaries. He is 24, so there's a question of how much he'll actually improve. His peripherals look pretty good in AAA right now. I think worst case scenario, he's a 4 ERA guy, and that ends up being organizational depth for us, or like a fifth starter. Best case scenario, though, he could end up being a front of the rotation pitcher for us. So that's why I'm going for him. And also the fact that it's taking Andy Young, and Andy Young doesn't look very good. He's 25 in Double-A, and he just doesn't look very good. So I'm going to go ahead and complete this trade, and I will look back out on the market for maybe a little bit more of a major league piece this time. So I can do a thing, and I'm really having trouble because if you've been watching the channel for a while, you know that I like to have full realism mode engaged, and I'm not sure this is a trade that the Mariners make, but I've set up a trade for Yusei Kikuchi, who's having a pretty good first season, and it'll only take Nick Ahmed, but I've added in Drew Ellis to make things a little bit more fair, and also to make it a little bit more similar to the Taijuan Walker trade that happened a couple of years back. My rationale is that basically the Mariners are very bad. They have no hope for the playoffs this year, and so controllable assets are great, but when they're 28 like Kikuchi is, I'm not sure that that really helps them. The other thing is that J.P. Crawford has been awful as a shortstop. So they could use a shortstop. They could also use people to add to their farm system as guys like Jared Kelenic and Justice Sheffield come up. I don't know if they make this trade exactly, but I have the AI turned up to be difficult, so I think this is a realistic enough trade that maybe there's a world in which it happens. Maybe. And I think that's just enough for me to push it over the edge. So I'm going to go ahead and complete it, and hopefully we can have Kikuchi be the star of our rotation for a long time to come. Now I just have to figure out how my lineup looks. Let's just take a look at it right now. So right now, Ketel Marte would slide back to shortstop where he's not very good. And Jared Dyson would come in at center field, which is not ideal. I don't think I have anybody worth bringing up in AAA. No, I don't. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set Escobar as a third baseman. I'm going to set Marte as a center fielder. Yeah, so then Lamb moves over to third base and Wilmer Flores moves in at first. Escobar goes to short. Weirdly, Dyson still starts over Marte, but maybe that's for it's for the defense, obviously. We can take a look at that if we need to, but I think that actually still works. And we get Kikuchi out of it. So I don't feel like I've given up a lot other than maybe a little bit of defense. I think that's also going to be the last move that I make this episode. I can't imagine anything better than trading for Yusei Kikuchi. That was just an opportunity that kind of presented itself out of the blue. And you don't often get a chance to make trades like that. So I'm going to go ahead and put him on the active roster. I'll sort things out a little bit better, but just so you can see him in there, he is going to supplant Merrill Kelly. And there he is, Yusei Kikuchi, hopefully our new ace. So, if you've enjoyed me trading for Yusei Kikuchi and various minor leaguers who won't have an impact on the playoff race, even though I say they will, please leave a like on the episode. Not for me, it's for the YouTube algorithms. And I hope you stick around and watch the next one. I'm really enjoying this series, and I hope that you are too. So, see you then.